Thank you everyone for joining today. Lumen is really excited to be partnering with OpenStax and to bring you this webinar and for the partnership as we move forward. I'm Rachel Zaccaro. I am the Director of Product Marketing at Lumen, and I'll do a little bit more of an introduction in a second. Just some housekeeping. So you all should be able to talk, but I have muted you, or mute is the default. So if you would like to talk, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can use the question and answer portion, which is on the screen, or even in the chat. This webinar will be recorded and sent out afterwards, along with all of our contact information. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we are available to answer any of those. All right. So like I said, I'm Rachel and I am with Lumen Learning. And we also have David Harris, the editor-in-chief at OpenStax on the phone, and our star of the event, Rooney. And I will let them introduce all themselves, but a quick introduction to Lumen Learning. So Lumen Learning has been around since 2012. We grew out of a grant project that was exploring how to improve learning using open educational resources. And since 2012, we now have over 50 courses that has courseware available, and over 350 institutions are using Lumen Learning and 250,000 students. In a nutshell, what Lumen Learning does is we use open educational resources like OpenStax, and through using open educational resources, we are able to provide affordable, well-supported course material designed to strengthen learning. And we'll be able to see more of that later on. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to David to talk about OpenStax.
Great, thank you so much for having us today. It's always so great partnering and discussing OER with Lumen because Lumen is one of the pioneers in supporting and building awareness around OER. So we're always excited to work with you. I'm the editor-in-chief for OpenStax. I've been working with OpenStax before it was even OpenStax. It was called Connections way back when. And OpenStax, we're a nonprofit organization based out of Rice University in Houston, Texas. And we develop OER materials for 40 courses now that are professionally produced, peer-reviewed, and designed to meet the scope and sequence of typical courses. I'm really excited to talk about, or for you to learn more about our psychology project. It's very exciting. This is actually our most widely used resource. We have over 250,000 students using this a year. So one of the things I just want to point out is that Lumen is an ally of OpenStax. And what does that mean? Well, an ally really shares our values in terms of supporting the sustainability of OER, looking for ways to enhance OER content, and making sure that whatever the enhancements are made are shared back with the community. And also for OpenStax, an ally is very important because they help us in our sustainability. So as you know, Lumen's a for-profit company, but when they are able to sell subscriptions and services, they provide a mission support fee back to OpenStax that lets us support the library and maintain the library. So we do annual updates every year. So this is very, very important to us as a nonprofit. And it's why we value our partnership with Lumen so greatly.
Thank you,
Right.
Dave.
No problem.
All right, I would like to turn it over to the star of the event. Rooney, would you like to introduce yourself and give a little background?
Sure. I'm almost embarrassed to say that I've been at this gig for 40 years. I'm a cognitive psychologist by training, and I particularly love to teach Introduction to Psychology. I've taught it every semester for 40 years, sometimes every semester. And it was really wonderful to be able to work with OpenStax and adopt that textbook, and then now working with Lumen Learning, because to me, in psych, intro is the foundational course, and it's really important to be able to provide a really solid foundation. But it's also, we're the largest department in the entire school. We're bigger than the schools of education and business, as a matter of fact. And intro is a requirement for the School of Business, for all the pre-meds. It's a required course in many professions. So we have a huge number of students relative to our size who all take intro. So that's why it's so exciting to be able to talk about a product I love.
Wonderful, thank you. So what made you decide to start using open educational resources?
Price, basically. The price of textbooks was just skyrocketing. And then the platforms that came with it were just, it was just really expensive. So that was the primary, reason why I've been casting around. And there were lower cost options and some ways that we could, negotiate prices with the larger publishing platforms. But when the reference librarian who is in charge of developing the OER program, Joanne Spadaro, came and brought the book, she basically brought the book and handed it to me and said, this book is free online and it's a nominal cost to get the hard copy. It was like a gift. And I adopted it last semester. And it has been great because, as I said, the online version is free. And it has, a print version, which I ordered through the bookstore, and it was really inexpensive. And it solved those problems. The access for our students is really important. And even with vouchers, they need to be able to go to the bookstore to be able to get it. So it satisfied both of those requirements for me.
Wonderful. And so what made you decide to start using Lumen Learning in our courseware, which is called Waymaker?
Well, very much it was because while the textbook, the online version of it had a lot of interactive features and demos built in, and the textbook itself was fine, I just needed more than what the textbook itself offered. And some of the components, like the test banks, were not integrable easily with Blackboard, which is the LMS that we use. And then even integrating the online textbook, it wasn't easy to do that. And so when Joanne told me about Lumen Learning, and I went to the seminar that they held, it seemed to be, at least one solution to some of those things. And it's turned out to be exactly that. That is, it's entirely integrated with Blackboard. And then it allows me, because we have so many sections of it being taught every semester, it allows me to be able to make sure that all of the sections are in fact getting the content, the exact same content. I can monitor them much more easily. I was doing a lot of the programming myself, and the adjuncts didn't want to bother with it. But this way, it's all programmed in, it's modular, you can move them around. It comes with discussion boards and assignments that move with the module, and you can choose to use them or not. It's very easy now to get all of that interactivity with Lumen.
Wonderful.
We'll talk about the most important part later, because that's sort of.
Yeah, that's a great segue into talking about what your favorite features are of Waymaker. And I think I'm going to turn the screen over to you so you can share as you talk about these.
Okay, you bear with me because I'm still very technologically impaired. Okay, so I need to get through this. Why won't it let me?
You might need to just move it down a little bit. Yes, there you go.
Okay, so I'm gonna just first take you into the course. So it looks like this. It's on Blackboard, and here's the introduction to psychology. And this is what comes up. And here are the chapters, I've called them, the things I like to call them. I'm going to take you into a chapter that is organized exactly the same way that Lumen comes. And as you can see here, it comes with the discussion board. It comes with the pre-programmed quiz. I don't have to actually create them, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But here's the content, and it is the OER text content, but they've got some really nice additional interactive features in there. And so here's the beginning, why it matters. And when you click on this tile, it is a short introduction into the topic itself, right? And then it takes you next to a show what you know tile, which you saw earlier, and it's a pretest. So I'm just going to go through this. As you can see, these are questions. I'm just going to answer them quickly, just totally randomly. Obviously, don't tell my students to do this, but once you do all this, and submit, it then brings you up and it tells you your score, and it gives you a study plan. It tells you what was correct, obviously what was incorrect, and it sort of tells you where to go to find the correct answer, right? And then gives you the updated study plan. Then this is the study plan. This is in here, the content of the chapter itself. And built into each of the segments is the content, the learning objectives. And then here's one of the things I really do like, which is that after short segments, they have these self-assessment. They call it formative assessment, but they have self-assessment questions, and you can check the answer, and it tells you why you're incorrect, which I really like. Error-based learning is very effective. As a cognitive psychologist, I can guarantee you that. And then it has not just multiple choice questions, it also has essay questions as well. Oh, go back. And then at the end of that section, it gives you these questions, which are really thoughtful, reflective questions, and then the glossary and so on. So this applies to all of the segments inside that larger chapter. And at the end, oops, no, that's not where I wanted to go. Here, you can put it all together. That's this tile over here. And they're interactive. I didn't show you those demos, but I can. And then here's the quiz. And the good thing about the quiz, again, it's pre-programmed, but they allow you to take it twice. And that's really important because when the students make a mistake, it tells them what the mistake was and then tells them where to go find the right answer. And they have 2 chances to be able to do that. And that's where the really brilliant part of it comes in, which is this. And under faculty resources, and by the way, all of the course contents are available separately and all of the assignments are available, but they're also available in here. I just want to go through that for a second. There's a PDF of the material without all the interactive stuff and these self-assessments. There's the PowerPoints. Here are the individual discussions and assignments, and they're listed by chapter, and it gives you a really nice description of each of them. And again, as I said, if you move the modules around, if you move the chapter around, all of the assignments and the discussion boards and the grading columns sort of come with that chapter, so you don't have to worry about it. And as you can see here, it also tells you some of the assignments which are bigger, so you might want to spend some time talking about them and give them a week rather than just that 3 days or whatever you might normally do. So that's those. And then here are the question banks, which can be imported in, and you can construct your own quizzes if you didn't want to use those, or additional quizzes if you wanted. And then there are these additional resources, which are actually the OpenStax additional resources through OpenStax as well, which is really nice. But here's the one I love the most, and that's, oh, by the way, this pacing is useful because it tells you how to organize the courses if you don't have a full 16-week semester and so forth.
Great. We do have a question that came in that is, I think this is a great time for it. So we have a question about, can you describe if or how you worked with the Blackboard support team on with your campus to integrate Lumen and OpenStax into what you're showing?
Actually, this sounds like I'm making it up. I'm not. After the presentation that was given by two of the Lumen people, they sent me a link, and I did it myself. I didn't actually, and I'm really technologically challenged. And the fact that I could do it myself and integrate it directly into Blackboard was really easy. But what I did do after I did it for myself and had my section up there, I went to my instructional support guys here, and they were very helpful in setting up all the other adjunct sections. They set up a developmental, they called it developmental section for me, not developmental as in psychology, developmental as in I could move things around and set it as a master course, and then they copied it into the other adjunct sections. But it really is very easy to set up. It really is very integrable into Blackboard. Does that answer the question?
Thank you. And I do just want to, oh, yes, she said nice. Thank you, Brenda. Just to also mention that we do import into Canvas, Moodle, and D2L in addition to Blackboard. And so the process for that is just requesting a cartridge, making sure that your integration is set up, which just takes a little work with the support team to make sure everything's set up. You just import the cartridge and then away you go. And so it is something that is very seamless. And then in the email that I'll send out as a follow-up, it does have a link to try this course, and that's what it is. It's a sandbox that you put into your LMS, whether it's Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle, or D2L.
Okay, so here's really my favorite part of this, and this is that when the students are taking the quizzes, they take it twice, as I said before, and after the first one, they get a message. If they don't meet mastery, and I've set mastery at 80% of the score, and it's a 20-item quiz for each chapter, and if they don't master 80%, they get sent a message, which I can send from here. I can set up those messages here. I can go into some detail with that if you want me to, but it shows up here. It actually shows me those students who didn't meet mastery, and it points out which sections of the chapter they were struggling with before they take the next the next try of that quiz. And you know, while many of the other platforms have these bells and whistles, which shows you where the students are with their quizzes and what they didn't do so well on, I have to tell you, I mean, the fact that this shows up on my email and I can see it and it points to the individual students, I don't have to go through student by student to find who's struggling. It actually alerts me, and I can send them a message. If they've gotten to mastery, it sends them a message every couple of weeks. It'll say, great job, and you can actually automate that yourself, or write in how you want to be phrased. But if they're not doing so well, it points out what they haven't been doing well in. And again, you can edit exactly what you want to say, but it basically says, you could try this, or you could try that, or here's some additional resources. And it goes to them before they take the next try at the quiz. And as I said, it alerts me that these students are struggling. So not only does it send the message, but I know the students who are struggling. I don't have to dig through the entire roster to find those students. And I think, Rachel, you can show me the individual history that you have so that the students' names aren't in it.
Yes. So go ahead and stop sharing. And before we jump into that, just to clarify, there are two different types of messages. So there are going to be automatic messages that go out, and you set those up as an instructor before your class. And those go out and they are the great job taking that quiz, keep up the good work. Or it's also if students are not doing those formative assessments, not doing the self-checks through the content, basically just sort of jumping to the quiz, and getting lower than that mastery. It will be an automatic message on the instructor's behalf that says, you know, I give you 2 attempts. Maybe some suggestions would be to go back and try doing those formative assessments inside as you're learning the content, but try that. So some automatic messages. The second type of
you can set up yourself. I mean, you can actually edit them so they really feel like they come from you, because you can phrase it exactly the way you want.
Yes, great point. So when I set them up, I make sure to add a lot of exclamation marks, because that's my personality. And that, if I had students, they would sense that. The second type of message, which we're going to look at right now, is going to be ones that queue up that you decide when to send. And we'll take a look at what that looks like right now. We just want to be very sensitive about student information. And so here are some screenshots that have the student's information blurred out.
So this is from this semester, as you can see. And you can see that I can see right off the bat their average quiz scores, and look at the number of messages that they've been sent, and so on. So I think the other one is this is an actual student. And as you can see, at first, the person, you know, did okay, but the second one, they got 67%, and they hadn't been doing the formative assessment. So I sent a message to them, and I tailored it. So I said, gee, you know, I can see that you haven't been doing the formative assessment. It would help you if you did. And lo and behold, as you can see, this person really did much better and has continued to use the formative assessments with that feedback. And the feedback I've gotten from my students is, you know, they will write back to me, even though the message, whether it was the mastery message or one of these messages, even if it was automated, will write back to me and say, thank you so much for caring. It's so nice. Yes, I will study that part of the chapter better. It's a really wonderful, it's working really well. And I feel really great because the students seem to be so receptive to it. And at first I thought it was a little bit big brothery, but the students really do seem receptive. And at the beginning of the semester, I had about, I would say 3 or 4 out of my 30 students who were getting 100% on their exams. And now it's literally quadrupled. And I, you know, announce the names of the students. I started this at the very beginning of the semester, and I announced the name of the student, and they love it. People clap. One time I missed one of the names by accident, and the student was absolutely outraged. She stood up and she said, I got 100%. You didn't say my name. And everybody gave her a standing clap, you know, ovation kind of a thing. So it's working really nicely. The feedback, and I have to say, honestly, I wouldn't look at every student and look at their performance. But now that I get alerted, once I'm in that group, in this screen that you're looking at, I go in and I actually do look at every student and how they've done. And if I feel like they need an additional little boost, I'll do that. Which I would, you know, I have to admit, quite honestly, I wouldn't have done if I hadn't been getting those alerts for individual students. So I really like this part of it. And the students' feedback has been amazing. They really like it as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So any other comments or questions? Anything that you want to ask Lumen or OpenStax or Rooney? And you can ask in the Q&A, or you can unmute yourself and ask live as well. All right, so we do have a question. How do you export the assignments you pick into the folder the students are using? Oh, that is a great question. So
can I share my screen? And
yeah, I will stop sharing. So the question is, how do you move the assignments that are imported into the modules, and basically how do you edit your course, I believe, if I'm asking that correctly.
Right. Let me go back to, okay. So here's when I'm in the course. And as you can see, I've got the modules lined up exactly the way I want them, in the order that I want them. I've numbered them in the order that I want them to be. And as you can see here, this is a chapter which is set up the way that it comes with Lumen, and the discussion board is already in there. Here is what I've done with my discussion boards, for example, here. I also use discussion boards, but I set it up so they're watching specific videos, and then the discussion board is set up with that. And then what I do is I can go in here into the discussion board groupings, and as you can see, these are my discussion board, the ones that I've set up, and the ones that come from Lumen are here as well, but I haven't used all of those. Oops, here we go. You see this? These are not, I make them unavailable, so they're in the module, but the students can't see them. They're not visible. And when you go into the Grade Center, you can make the column that's related to this also not visible. You can hide those columns, and you can rearrange the Grade Center so that it reflects everything that you want in there, and not what you don't. And as I said, that's really useful because there are some assignments where I choose to use, and then if I don't choose to use it, I just hide it and hide the column as well. It's very easy.
Mm-hmm. And then a second part of that question is, do you also give exams in addition to the quizzes?
Yes, I have as you can see here, there's the folder. They just took it last week, the midterm folder. And again, because the test banks, let me just go into that and show you. You can just import that cartridge, the test bank cartridge, which is right here. You can download them. And it's very straightforward to import it. You can, depending on what you're using, Canvas or Blackboard or 2DL or Moodle, you can import them into Blackboard, in my case, into Blackboard, and then just create quizzes exactly the same way. I mean, exams and midterms and things like that, exactly the same way as you would in Blackboard. It's it matches in exactly like that.
Mm-hmm. Which is great for lockdown browsers and being able to use that so it's the same student experience.
Right.
Something to also mention is that the grades do, since you're inside your LMS, they go right into the grade book.
Exactly.
And you can edit it and change it, so it's one grade book. And then also just to reiterate that since it is inside your LMS, there is no other system for the students that they link out to or passwords to remember. And then for you as an instructor as well, everything is right there inside your LMS.
And it's so great, because if every other platform pretty much, you've had to either create a portal through to the other LMS or just go to the other LMS directly. It hasn't been that easy. This one is completely seamless.
Great. Any other questions that we can answer?
Okay, we're back.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Like I said, you will get an email that has the recording and then some additional links. Feel free to reach out to Lumen, to OpenStax for any additional questions. Also, our website links will be in there. And you should be getting that shortly. All right. Thank you again, Rooney, and thank you, David, for joining, and Courtney from OpenStax. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Take care. Thank you. Thanks, Rachel.